language. She in fact knows Sanskrit very well. And the reason we have been working with her and she's been working with us, it's been a collaboration largely, is that Sandhi has been looking at understanding Sanskrit as a language through which we can understand the science of the past. And in that context, Chaitali has been working with us in translating and interpreting texts of the past, in understanding what was the science and technology and the manner in which it was written and spoken about earlier. Chaitali is going to speak about imagining the urban, Sanskrit literature and the cities.
So far we are hearing from the technological and historical and archaeological point of view. Now I am trying to show the picture of the city which comes from the literature and which is attested in the normative texts like Arthashastra and Vastushastra. The city described in all Kavyas and Arthashastra and Vastushastra like texts is a completely planned and deliberately systematically executed construction. So there are various stories of building, starting a new city in literature. There is a story of Manu who started building Ayodhya, Mathura by Shatrughna, Kapilavastu by the pupils of Gautama Rishi, and like that. So the way they started is mentioned in the Puranas, Agama Shastras and Shilpa Shastras. First they used to study the site, that is called Bhu Sangraha, then Bhu Pariksha, examination of the site, Dik Parichheda, determination of the cardinal points, Pada Vinyasa, survey of the ground, Bhu Vidhana, transferring on the ground the layout conceived in the planning, and then final part is Gruha Nirmana. So first three are, first I am not dealing with the first three aspects because that involves a lot of astronomy and other details. So once that is done, the true east-west line and true north-south line is achieved, then they used to start the Padavinyasa. They used to divide the plot. Ideally they preferred the square plot. So almost all designs are basically the layouts are given on this square plot. So there are various divisions in this plot. One is 100 division, then another division was 81 division and 64 divisions. So the central part of the square is called a Brahma Pada, and they prefer that there should not be heavy construction on this Brahma Pada because it is the only source of proper ventilation in that kind of house, because the outer walls were almost like closed walls, whereas in somewhere there is no window at all on the outer wall. So whole ventilation is through the central part, that's why, and that is the basic difference or basic characteristic feature of all the Indian and I think even now Malabar architecture is following this kind of architecture, and in Konkan region I have seen few houses built up with this kind of rule. So you can select 64 division, 81 division or 100 division. The choice was the Shilpi's choice based on the type of land and the type of construction they are planning to do. So the city layouts are discussed in the Manasara and Mayamata and even in Samarangana Sutradhara. There is a difference and some point of confusion in this text, because some say that these layouts are based on the outer shape of the city. Some say that the layout is based on the direction of roads in the city. So there is a contradiction, and the Nagara Shaili on which the Samarangana Sutradhara is based, they say that it should be dependent on the roads of the city and not of the outer shape of the city. So there are almost 12 layouts in the technical literature, but we do not find many of them mentioned in the literature. Only Dandaka is mentioned, and Ayodhya is said to be laid out on the Dandaka principle. So these are these various layouts. One is swastika layout, which will have roads like turning to right and left like this, and the Chaturmukha, where you can reach to the center of the city from all the four corners. And Dandaka layout is a different layout where the Brahmapada is crossed by the main roads of the city. So this is a different layout, and they generally did not like this kind of layout, that the central area in the city should not be crossed by the main roads, or that it should be open, or the king's palace or a temple should be there. That's what they preferred, but how much was in practice, we don't know. This is a Nandyavarta layout, it is a very complicated layout, and of course Samarangana Sutradhar mentions it, and I don't know whether any city was based on this kind of roads, because the roads are not in proper, they are not coming in a proper way in this particular layout. There is a Karamukha layout. This is preferred on the river banks or in the corner of the hill or any other place where the water reservoir is there. Then Padmaka layout for the circular cities like Tanjavur or any other city. So then this Pura or the city is divided into various pockets, which are already described in the earlier talks, and there is a difference between Arthashastra and Samarangana Sutradhar in terms of various pockets. So of course east is given to the priests or Brahmins, and north in Arthashastra is given to the workers, especially who are working on metals. But if you see Samarangana Sutradhar is prescribing is that in north all Brahmins or the ashramats should be there in that north side. So there is a difference, and maybe with time situation changed and they came up with these rules. Then there is a story of Gaggila city in Mahadammaga Jataka, where the king of that region wanted to build a new city, and he ordered his ministers to start building a new city. How they did that? First he asked them to construct a huge tunnel till the bank of the river Ganga, and 60,000 soldiers made that tunnel. It was the length of this tunnel was 700 Purusha and height of 18 Purusha. I don't know whether it is true or not, because this is too much to go down, but maybe the literature is trying to say that it was too high and the measurement is not exactly correct. The soil was carried away by horses and elephants in leather banks near the river bank, where water was mixed in that, and mud is formed, and this mud is crushed by elephants in those leather bags, and they achieved the soil or the mud for the making of bricks. So they started making bricks. The way of making bricks was they had wooden blocks of various sizes, square, sometimes sometimes with a slightly curved edges, and where means it depends upon the construction. So what they used to do is they used to first plan what kind of wall they want to construct, what is the length of that wall, and then calculate the number of walls that is mentioned in Shulba Sutra. So they know that when they make a brick, the brick first they used to keep those bricks in sun, so the size of the brick will reduce. So there is a calculation in Shurba Sutra that how much you should increase. So if you want a 144 angulas wall, you have to make bricks for 150 walls. That is what they are telling. So that after drying up and after baking the bricks, you will get a proper size of 140 or 144 angulas. So they started doing bricks there, and then the road of this tunnel is, side walls of this tunnel were built by these bricks, and then the roof was made of wood. Roof of the tunnel was made of wood, and then after that they applied lime plaster or mud plaster on these walls. Some text commentary is saying lime plaster, and the original text is saying mud plaster. So, and in the commentary they are saying that they have mixed fine sand, powdered of stones, ashes, and ukhya bhasma. Ukhya is a kind of pot in which the Brahmins used to keep their Agni. So this pot has passed the test of temperature, and what they used to do is that the ashes collected in these pots, they used to store it for the construction purpose, and they used to add this ash in the mud to make the bricks stronger. And Shulba Sutra even mentions that if you mix this ash and then the result is not very good, your bricks are breaking, don't worry, break those bricks again, mix them in the soil or that mud and make another bricks. That brick will be stronger enough to survive the stress of the earth or any other things.
What percentage would be?
Percentage is not given, only this trying method is given. So unfortunately they are just mentioning the ingredients. Percentage is not given. Only Samarangan Sutradhar is giving a little bit of information in terms of percentage, but the ingredients mentioned are very controversial. Means they have various meanings in the Sanskrit literature, so we don't know what exactly they are trying to see. So I am working on it, and I am waiting for the Deccan College visit to see the historical change in the meaning of those terms, and then if I can come up with something, then let's see. So this is one process. Similarly, he ordered his soldiers to build, or technicians to build 300 boats and carry wood from the surrounding jungles. So they started collecting wood, strong wood, and then the city's plan was laid out by the experts, and they started building cities. So these carpenters filled 300 boats with wood for the city, and this wood was used as in pillars or any other supporting material. So in that town, first they constructed a moat and a rampart, which had a height of 18 hastas, and it had ornamented gateways as any other Indian city will have. And in that town, they constructed a palace, administrative office, gardens, ponds, playgrounds, multi-story houses, small houses, and everything. And all this was built in 4 months. So we don't know whether they actually did that in 4 months or the story is saying. And at the end, the storyteller is saying that Bodhisattvas, all plans do succeed. So this plan also was successful. So we don't know whether this much time. But the process is told in a detailed manner. And there. No identification. This might be a fact because this is a Jataka story, so might have some connection with the but we cannot say. And when I searched Gaggila in the dictionary, I find people living in Gaggila, but there is no landmark mentioned in the, especially means they are mentioning Gaggila lady. There is no mention of other this thing, but there is no mention of geographical mark related to Gaggila. So of course the cities always had some big palaces and all. So the king's palace should have following apartments according to all these Vastu Shastra texts. One is Vasagruha, where king used to sleep, and this Vasagruha should be in a Mohana Gruha, and they prefer that this Vasagruha could be, Arthashastra says that this should be underground Vasagruha, and king should sleep in an underground room and that should not be easily identified in the palace. This Mohana Gruha is a kind of bhulaiya. It will have Gupta Dwaras and ways from pillars to go out, and even the roof of this Mohan Gruha will be collapsible roof according to Arthashastra, so that if the enemy comes here, you can create a chaotic situation by falling that roof and take advantage of the situation and either run away or take over the enemy. So then all this is surrounded by Bhumi Gruha, where a temple, a small temple for the worship will be there, and the Gupta Dwara from the king's Vasagruha should open in this Bhumi Gruha, where the deity is there, and he can go through that passage. So there are many other apartments for queens and prince and princesses, and Alankara Gruha for keeping their ornaments and other things. So there is a huge description in Harshacharita by Banabhatta. Banabhatta had an obsession of telling each and every thing accurately. There is a description in Banabhatta's Kadambari where the sentences is very simple. A lady wearing white cloth is worshipping a white Shivalinga on white floor. But he has spent some 4 or 5 pages to describe each and every white. It's different from the other white, and so that's how he described this kind of Mahala of King Harsha. And Vasudev Sharan Agrawal has given this kind of drawing for the palace based on Arthashastra, Harshacharita. And if we notice, then there is a Dhavala Gruha, top floor of the king's palace.
Just interrupt. Do you have directions on this? The last map and this one, the north and this orientation.
No.
You're not talking
No.
about orientation.
No, that is there in the Vastu Shastra text, but this is a author's. Vasudev Sharan Agrawal is not a Vastu Shastrajna. He was a literary person, and he has given this drawing. But this drawing is based on Samarangana Sutradhara's description of the palace, which I will show later. So directions might be same as the Samarangana Sutradhara's directions. So there is a Dhavala Gruha. It had various pillars, and then Chandrashalika, the terrace for enjoying the moonlight for the king and his family. So this is the description given by Samarangana Sutradhar by Bhoja in Samarangana Sutradhar, and this earlier drawing is based on this particular plan of the palace. Then Arthashastra describes that city should have ample number of koshagruhas to collect important materials from the surrounding jungle, surrounding forests, and even people's wealth or king's wealth should be protected in these koshagruhas. And these koshagruhas, he says that should be underground, except the koshagruhas for storing dhan, that should be on the ground, but other koshagruhas should be under the ground. and all of them should have a collapsible ladder, or sometimes a roof. If it is a too important koshagruha, then a roof should be collapsible. And the way he is telling to build this koshagruha is it should have 3 floors. So first you have to dig that much deep, and then you have to create a wooden structure fitting for this 3-floory underground apartment kind of thing, and then this structure should be inserted in the deep. I don't know how they did that, because he is not asking to construct in the in that area. So, and then he is saying that it should have a proper support. So the dig up area should be longer than the desired area, and it should have a support like this from the earth. And then when they are filling this with soil, he is saying that instead of using soil, you should use either stones or bricks, because the water should not go in the koshagruha, otherwise the seepage problem will be there. So he is trying to avoid that problem. Houses in the cities are based on the different kind of layout mainly. That is what we come to know from Manushalaya Chandrika, that cities are based on this square planning, but the house should be based on this Vithi planning. But there is a contradiction in the Vastu Shastra texts only. They try to superimpose this Vithi model on the square model, and there is a confusion and lots of calculations involved in this, which may not be the case. And some people say that square model should be used for the laying out of the city, and Vithi model should be used for the house. And Manushalaya Chandrika is based on this Vithi model, and they are describing house. As I said, this central area was always open, and it is called Ankana. So a house in the city had 3 Ankanas. One is Madhya Ankana, Bahya Ankana, and Parshva Ankana. So in the Bahya Ankana, they had places for their domestic animals, vehicles, and other things. And in the back Ankana, they had Avaskara, dunghill, or some toilet kind of thing. That's what Arthashastra is telling, but I don't know whether toilet was there or latrine were there at that time. And Arthashastra is telling that this whole area should be surrounded by a Brahma, water channel, so that the water will come out in the common water course, and this should flow properly. If it is not flowing properly, Kautilya is imposing fine on the residents. As I said, windows and doors were not allowed on the outside walls unless and until there is a Rajamarga or a Rathamarga in front of the house, where you can have a balcony kind of structure or window kind of structure in Arthashastra. So these houses were built on plinths, and these plinths sometimes they had 2 plinths. One is Pitha and then Upapitha. Upapitha, according to Arthashastra, is needed to reduce the chances of seepage. So he is advising builders that don't build house in a hurry. Build Pitha, then Upapitha, and then house. They used mud mixed with ashes, coal powder, cow dung, plant and animal resins as a binding material while constructing the walls. Walls were plastered with mud mixed with rice husk, cow dung and lime plaster, sometimes, not always. Walls were plastered with mud Then there is another layer that is called Vajralepa or Vajrasanghata in the houses of rich people, not in the ordinary houses, because this is an expensive procedure, and these walls this is done for decorating the walls. But Chanakya is advising to use one layer of mud mixed with ashes produced by lightning mixed with hail water on the walls to avoid fire. He is prescribing this for fire safety, and it should be there, if it is possible, it should be there in every house and every kosha gruhas. The process of creating Vajralepa or Vajrasanghata is mentioned in various texts. The material is so varied that there is no uniform kind of Vajralepa or Vajrasanghata, and the proportions are not given. The Vajralepa mentioned in Manasollasa and Samarangana Sutra had two different types. One is vegetarian Vajralepa and one is a non-vegetarian Vajralepa. So non-vegetarian Vajralepa had buffalo hide, and it was boiled. Samarangana Sutradhar says it should be boiled in water, whereas Manasollasa says it should be boiled in milk. So till it melts, becomes soft as butter, and then you have to make sticks of this and dry under the strong heat of the sun. So whenever you are doing any construction work or any painting, then use these sticks, mix them in hot water and lime powder and apply. That will give just plain white coating, the way we give plaster these days. That is what you will get. If you want to add colors in this, then use various colors made from flowers like Kinshuka, Kamsubha or Kumkuma flowers, and add them in this paste and create your desired color, and then draw any drawing like Rangoli kind of drawing or any painting from the epics or on your walls to decorate. Vegetarian Vajralepa had unripe tinduka, unripe wood apple, flowers of silk cotton, seeds of shallaki, bark of dhanvan, the vacha root, etc. And you have to cook all these things in water until the mixture is reduced to 1/8 in the volume. Then mixed with turpentine, guggula resin, bhallataka, jasmine, sarja and list and bilva, and then it is applied on the walls. So this is desired for giving a glossy look or a fine look for painting, and I think some of these materials are used in Ajanta caves for, I am not too sure, but some of them are mentioned in Ajanta caves material also. The floor of palaces was obviously stones because they could afford those stone based floors, but in common houses the floor was made with simple soil, and then cow dung mixed with lamb black is applied, and when it is wet they used to make rangoli on it so that it can stay until the next coat is applied on the ground. So there is, in Brahmin houses there is a description of renewing this coat on every Purnamashi or any particular festive occasion, and they used to redraw the rangoli in the house. There are references of roofs, but the technique is not given how they used to construct these roofs. Obviously these barrel roofs were preferred, and common houses had this roof bricks and a simple structure like this, and decorative roofs were for the palaces and rich people's house. Brick making is described in detail in Shulba Shastra. Measurements are given, how to create these wooden molds is given, and Shilpis used to practice this with, they used to train their disciples with various techniques of making these bricks and arranging them to have a particular shape, and this was done with the Yajnavedi of different types, and that's why they come up with a different bricks of different shapes and different sizes. So in this way, narrative literature presents a beautiful description of architecture, ambience and institutions, ideologies and practices in the urban life. There is a huge description on gardens and ponds in the literature, and but that is lacking in the Vastu Shastra, means how they used to create those ponds and how they used to decorate these ponds. That information is not very much present in the normative texts. One beautiful example of this Upavana is Pramadavana, again from the Kadambari of Badabhatta, and then there is a sea house kind of thing in Ramayana. So these two are very beautifully described garden architectures in ancient Indian literature, and this is what we get from the normative text. They are giving too much details of technical details, mathematics and astronomy in Vastu Shastra, but they are not giving details of how exactly the city planning was initiated and how they followed. But literature gives some references here and there, and then we have to connect the gap between the narrative literature and normative literature to come up with a proper picture.
I have two questions. The riverbank road network, do we see that in Banaras?
Banaras?
You showed some road network schemes, right?
Yeah. But I don't know, means when they are telling in the
Text, Vastu Shastra related text, they are not taking any name of the current cities, no connection.
No, but has people tried to link it?
It's very difficult, city has changed so much that
One other is you described many ingredients. Do they know exactly what they need today?
not exactly, that's why I have retained Sanskrit names where I was not very sure. I have to see the Deccan College dictionary for that, and then we can come up with a proper.
Yeah, there could be many things.
Yeah. Means I searched in Monier Williams, I am getting 4 or 5
options for these names. Then I thought I should not use them in the slides.
There was a sentence like ashes mixed with lightning. So can you just explain?
That is mentioned in Arthashastra. So they means I don't know, even hail water they used to collect and keep in the Kupya Gruha. Arthashastra is talking about a Kupya Gruha where they used to store all the building material. So
And how does, the buffalo skin and hide?
buffalo skin was used for various purposes. One important purpose of buffalo skin was to every city or every fort had this khandak kind of thing. It was filled with water, and Arthashastra or Kautilya says that you should not build any bridge on that, because if there is already bridge, your enemy can easily come in your fort. So when needed, you should have a proper equipment to cross that water, and one of the equipment is buffalo skin. So they used to put their hands and legs in buffalo skin and float on the water. That's what is described in the commentary and one of the translations. And another one was using this big loki for floating. So that's what, and Chanakya is saying that you should keep all this ready always. Whenever needed, you should be able to reach there first, so that you can defeat your enemy.
So maybe looking at your example, several different things. You said putting your hands and legs into buffalo skin, and then floating using loki, and then you also had 18 Purusha in one slide. The tunnel was 18 Purusha high. So looking at those three examples, it looks like people those days used to be very tiny. Like I visited, for example, this Ocha. And there used to be a little, there is in the palace, there is a little entrance for the king, comes from the side wall side.
Yeah.
And that looks so very tiny actually. So people there, those times, is probably very, very small. No?
No. That's it. Small doors are intended for safety. That's
I used to literally crawl through it.
No, actually small doors were majorly meant, or you will find these doors majorly into temples and palatial buildings, and those were what I know were meant for you will be bowing to the deity or to the king or to the whoever's dignity person is there. You will be bowing against him, and then you will be moving inside. So these small arched doors were meant for that.
Make people deliberately go.
Exactly.